So, hello. Thank you for coming today. My name is Judith Angel. I am a curator and director of tranzit.sk contemporary art space here in Bratislava. Since the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, we were looking for practical ways of getting involved in helping the Ukrainian art scene. In the meantime, we benefited of a special budget from ERSTE Foundation in Vienna for middle-term aid for Ukrainian people. Thus, we decided to do a residency project for artists, curators, and cultural workers from Ukraine. We are very glad to be partnered with Galéria Mesta Bratislavy and together to offer the residents a safe place and to stay in Bratislava and facilitate connections and sharing of information with the local art scene. We think that the residency and this today's talk will give us an opportunity to get a deeper insight in the biggest urgencies of contemporary Ukrainian art and its art scene, as well as the residency. We hope that it will create professional connections and networks and hopefully lay ground for upcoming collaboration. I would like to thank to the residents, Milena Khomchenko, Clemens Poole, and Kateryna Aliinyk to take part in today's discussion, to Laco Oravec for moderation, to Galéria Mesta Bratislavy Kateryna Tyrnovska and her team, to tranzit.sk team, and also to our main sponsor, ERSTE Foundation, for making possible today's event. I would like to give now the floor to Kateryna.
Thank you, Judith. Just a few words. We are very happy to have this opportunity to help with this little thing, and we happy to share experiences. That's why we try to organize these residencies. We started last year, and this year we changed our concept because these circumstances. So we are really happy to have this kind of opportunity. So thank you to tranzit.sk. You choose us, and yeah, probably I will pass the microphone to Laco. Thank you very much, and welcome. Enjoy.
Okay, thanks a lot to ladies who are somehow hosts of today's event. My name is Laco Oravec. I will be mostly moderating the second part of this event. We will start with the presentation. All three artists, guests will have a presentation together. It should take like about an hour, and then there will be space for your questions, for my questions, for discussion in regard with the presentation, but we can go much wider and beyond that. And after that, there will be small catering, and after short break, we also have another Ukrainian artist, DJ, Karaoke Tundra, will play his set around 8. So you are very welcome to stay also for this party. And now let me just one more time mention our three guests who are the main actors of this event, and it's Milena Khomchenko, Kateryna Aliinyk, and Clemens Poole. So stage is yours, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Kateryna Aliinyk. I'm an artist from Ukraine, originally from Luhansk, Donbass. But since 2016, I've been living and working in Kyiv. My first war experience happened in 2014 when I was a teenager. And now I need to escape Russian bombs for the second time.
Hello, thanks everyone for coming, and thanks to Transit and Bratislava City Gallery for this opportunity to talk today and to be here. My name is Milena Khomchenko. I'm an independent art researcher and writer from Ukraine. I'm originally from Donetsk Oblast, eastern Ukraine, from a small village called Bogoyavlenka. And I'm also, I didn't fly from war 8 years ago because the part of my village was not occupied. But this time I had to go outside to be able to continue my work.
My name's Clemens Poole. I'm an artist and sometimes curator from New York, but I've been living in Ukraine for the last 3 years and working in Ukraine for 8 years. I feel lucky to be in this presentation with Kateryna and Milena, and honored to be able to represent the things that we're working on right now. Mostly though, I hope that this presentation can both practically and symbolically represent Ukrainian voices. I acknowledge that my country has also been involved in some objectionable things, and I would prefer that they speak mostly.
Because Russia invaded Ukraine and we had to flee our home, we are relying on spaces like transit to do our work. We have no other choice.
We recognize that there is a work by Russian artists in the exhibition in transit right now, as well as the parallel events with the participation of the Russian art collective while we are staying in the residency program, and we need to respond to that.
Russian artists have options. They can present their works in Russia and in many cases abroad because of the historical visibility of Russian artists that is a result of Russia's cultural imperialism.
We recognize that the international art system cannot be rebuilt instantaneously in response to war because of the slow speed of institutional change and reshaping of power structures.
We are against boycott because it is not a productive form of critique. The culture of boycotting mandates a boycott vs. collaborator dichotomy, which we disagree with.
While we cannot ethically collaborate with Russian artists, we also did not propose to remove the work of Russian artists. As such, our intervention stands between boycott and collaboration, and such work should be appropriate for a socially engaged institutions.
Our idea was to use a recording of our talk, which we are given now as a voiceover for the Что делать piece. This proposal was instead considered a censorship of the work, whereas prioritizing the Russian voice over the Ukrainian one, while also editing the proposal, is a censorship for us as well.
We are not proposing to replace every Russian with Ukrainians, while also we do not think the problem is solved by adding the Ukrainian artists to the current or any other exhibition.
We do not believe hosting Ukrainians absolves European institutions from responsibility to deal with the situation. Instead, we think that hosting us should be followed by a public discussion that has a potential of productive changes.
The format of our presentation will express how we perceive the institutional priorities in this matter. We prepared a small presentation with slides, so Clemens will handle this presentation. And we divided this presentation into 3 parts, like our humanitarian and actually first experience of our war, and then we will go next to how our practice actually changed, and then after we will speak about our future expectations. So the first slide dedicated to my I rent a studio in Kiev, and the first week of war I spent in a real post-Soviet bomb shelter, 3 floors under my studio in Kiev, where we lived 24 hours per 7 days for first
которые
week.
очень сильно
There
отличаются
we
от всех остальных
donated to the
революционеров.
army all the time. Also,
Впрочем,
we
только
bought
тем,
products
что
for
слишком ироничны, чтобы позволить себе погибнуть
nearest
геройской смертью.
hospital, and then we also was
Но те из
making
них, что
Molotov
выжили, конечно.
cocktails.
Так
And you
вот,
can see on the
сепаратисты
photo there
долго
is
думали,
a
что бы
photo
вам
of
передать.
our sleeping
Они, знаете
place,
ли,
and
вообще
the
долго
next
думают,
photo
прежде
is
чем
a
что-то сказать.
children's
Что вы
drawing
думаете?
who made the sign like
Послание,
first
по их
day of
мнению, должно
war.
было быть витиеватым,
Next one.
переполнено отсылками к
You
понятному
can
вам
see
контексту,
that this like a
метафорами и
real bomb
аллегорией.
shelter, and it also
С
was
другой
decorated
стороны,
with very
в ней
kitschy
должны были
stuff like this
содержаться важные
prints
вещи,
of paints of the
существование
famous
которых сейчас
masters
стало модным
and
отрицать.
this heavy door.
Поскольку эти вещи придуманы не
So I can
сепаратистами,
give my word to Milena.
и поэтому должны быть сказаны другими
Yeah,
устами.
when the war started,
Стало быть,
I
моими.
was staying in Lviv.
Хитро задумано и, конечно,
And,
без шансов на успех.
I
Не в коня
came to
корм.
Lviv couple of days
Публика
before
тут
war
читает
started
писанину
to
супа,
spend some
как
time
Святое
there
Писание,
with,
и ждет,
Clemens
пока кто-то умный
to be
скажет ей,
in
что
Center
делать.
for Urban History
Публика тут
and to do a
мистифицирует
research
практику
devoted to
и практикует
residencies.
мистику.
And,
О чем еще говорить, если
but
чудо революционной
also,
повседневности
like, while doing some
превратилось тут
humanitarian
в
aid
бытовые чудеса?
and trying to
Короче
be
говоря,
really involved
сепаратисты
into
почти
situation
отчаялись.
and doing
Но,
some
к счастью, у них был я.
volunteer work.
Единственное,
experience of
что дойдет
war
до
was
этих
also
революционеров
for me
выходного дня
a
из
lot,
России,
coming
единственное,
through
что
this digital
проникнет в их
space because I
сердца
was
и найдет
detached
отклик в
from
их
my
душах,
relatives
это
and all
совет
the closest people.
не копировать
So here,
слепо наш
like
опыт.
as a,
Иначе говоря, делайте, что хотите, авось прокатит.
documents,
Так сказал я,
pictures
и, конечно,
from
сепаратисты
that
меня послушались,
experience, I
как и
have
всегда.
only screenshots
Езжайте
in
туда
my
сами, Дон
phone,
Дорита, и действуйте по
because,
обстановке,
like,
сказали они.
the
И вот я
information
тут.
was spread
И представляю
in,
вашему вниманию несколько
this,
пьес,
like crazy
авторства
way.
и
There was
исполнения существ,
my phone was
рожденных
filled
сном
only with
все еще спящего
screenshots with
коллективного
the information
разума.
about borders. Well, like here is also a picture of cluster munition that bombed Pokrovsk near the place where I live. And also, I just found yesterday a picture of this random screenshot in my like phone that I don't even know what's saying about, because it says like yesterday I was asked to look something nearby, but there was nothing in the city, and this is actually like this experience of war where like people were also psychologically manipulated through the digital space of war without like saving only these screenshots of information about shelters or how to cross the border, where to go, where to find. This is, for example, a map of shelters in Lviv that like I had to find on my way because like we were almost no sleeping during all these days, and all these air alarms were happening during night, and like each time you could go outside, you never knew if air alarms will start happening again, and you just have to find this shelter in a second. And but also, as I said, I was trying to do some humanitarian, like some volunteer activity, and I went to one educational institution in Lviv where we were doing these nets, and it also seemed like we are doing some help, and it gave us this feeling of unity, but actually all this effort seemed like hopeless and not enough. But while I was staying there and doing that, my family was staying in Donetsk region, and this other picture is a picture of like a house in my village that was destroyed while my relatives were still there. And for the first month of war, I just couldn't evacuate because I didn't have any documents. And even if they were not needed, I knew that when I would leave, it would be too precarious and too like bad be additionally without documents. And I was also waiting for my family, and finally when they arrived to Lviv, I could like give space to them and to go outside to be able to continue work.
So Milena and I were actually together in Lviv at the start of the war. As she mentioned, she had a problem with documents, and I, as an American, had no such trouble. So I went to Warsaw in the first few days, and from Warsaw I started to work with some other activists. The main thing I spent the first 5 weeks doing was driving supplies across the border, and also from the airport in Warsaw to various depots where they were distributing things like armored vests and drones. This was something that Milena joined me in doing when she sorted out her documents, which was a sort of long process. And actually the second photo here is a delivery we did to Ivano-Frankivsk, and we actually ran into Katya there, who we're all friends from Kiev, but everybody had been kind of displaced through this whole period. So it was great to reconnect with friends delivering things to different humanitarian aid initiatives around Ukraine and also in Poland. And so the next part of our presentation will be return to creative practices.
Мы находимся в поселке Сиверский.
I spent first 3 months of war in the western part of Ukraine, in Ivano-Frankivsk, where our Ukrainian artist Milena Khomchenko created a residency for internally displaced Ukrainian artists. So during these 3 months of full Russian invasion, we had opportunity to work there and to live. So I want to say that my practice is actually connected to the war scene for a long time, and I started the painting series about occupied Donbass in September, like 3 months before full Russian invasion, and I painted these grenades or bombs that put down roots into earth while lying there 8 years. But after 24th February, I painted like this. Grenade-shaped roots are eaten by worms or even decomposed. So I'm interested both in gestures of resistance and in invisible underground processes of war we don't see now, but we will discover much later. I used fantasy before as an instrument to create order where I have no power. The longer I stay far from home, the less I know what's really going on there. I thought a lot about loss of subjectivity of people left there in Donbass and their diligent work on private pieces of land, which seemed like the last areas of control left to them. So I felt myself on the other side of the border, like slowly forgetting that the war is still going and feeling very pathetic about that. Of course, my agenda changed a lot after 24th February, but you can see that I still work with images of soil, nature and plants. This is my latest work on the right side of the slide, called Ukrainian Garden.
Yeah, and while I was staying in Lviv, in the first days of war, I got invitation from Spikart magazine to give some comments about my experience of the situation and what changed in my life, and instead I proposed to write an article by myself about this digital experience of war that I was telling about in the first part of the talk. And I was talking about this propaganda, of course, but also about this like hybrid invasion and this psychological manipulation through media that was impossible to go through, because it was like all the news that we were receiving were through these Telegram channels and all the information was really fragmental, and it was so impossible to like verify it that that at some point that you are so like psychologically exhausted and manipulated that you start like feeling suspicious even about your closest people. And here is like the one sentence from my article where I'm referring to the research of war photography by Susan Sontag called Regarding the Pain of Others. And the next article is I made is a conversation with Ukrainian artist Vlada Ralko that we made by the invitation of an artisan founded by Tbilisi activist and curator Elena Bashidze, who is also running a space called the Shared Space in Tbilisi. So we were talking about different things with Vlada, about her like about her creative practice during war, about like poetry, about language, about different things. But everything we were talking about was still like us discussing the war, because like this was a filter for us that was foregrounding all the topics and all the conversations we could even have. And the last article that I just finished working on recently, a bit more than like a week ago, where I'm talking about language manipulations in Eastern Ukraine. And here it was important to me to refer to this like main slogan of Russian propaganda, that is talking about defending indigenous Russian speakers in Ukraine. And for me it was very personally important to talk about all this like denazification and decolonization Russian propaganda is talking about, because I'm, as a person from eastern part of Ukraine, Russian is still not my native language. And in this article I wanted to like reinstate my agency and to like talk about why do we even have Russian language in Eastern Ukraine, because like during Russian Empire there were all these forced migrations of workers, and that's when first Russian language appeared in Eastern Ukraine. And then during the Soviet Union there were a lot of language laws that were banning Ukrainian language presence in the whole Ukraine. And then a big part of my work during all these months was working on the platform online publication called Sonia Digest.
Ах, знать она сильна, разжалить смеяла лося.
You want me to pick up some of this, or?
Но лось был мудр, но лось был добр.
While doing this platform, we wanted, of course, to talk about this war experience, but we also wanted to address the problems and challenges of the cultural discourse in general. And that's why in our approach we are trying to like give agency especially to Ukrainian people, but also we want to work with emerging art scene, because we want to talk how to give the space to voices who have more space but are not less critical and not less important in this situation. Also we want to address some internal critique, because we want to be critical about ourselves and maybe about some Ukrainian politics, because this is the only way to like construct any productive conversation. And I think Clemens can continue about this work.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more. So we've been working on this all together. Milena, our friend Lera Borajeva, and I have been the core editorial team of this project. And the basic idea was when we first came to Warsaw, we were meeting at the Museum of Modern Art with a number of activists and also displaced writers and artists. And we decided that we needed this kind of sort of a
вдохнула, и у
publication
меня
that would act
залетела в рот муха.
as
Как бы.
a
И я
voice
такая
against
подумала,
this war,
что
against
муха
empire, and
мне в рот
also against
залетела,
this
а
term
потом,
West-splaining, which kind of
ну как
appeared
бы,
or became
ну
popular
а
during this
что?
period.
Ну вот так вот мы встретились сейчас, как бы.
Yeah,
Я
I
открыла
actually
рот,
think
и
that
она в
Milena
него залетела.
is more integrated
Это
with
так
the
случилось.
curatorial ideas behind it. Initially, we kind of developed how we wanted to work. As she said, I think we wanted to work with both established and emerging voices. But this has been a really rich experience, working with this Polish collective and additionally engaging a number of Ukrainian artists and allies. Do you want to talk specifically about any of the articles? You can maybe in the Q&A, or you can talk to us afterwards. Unfortunately, we're experiencing technical difficulties, so the website is not online yet. But hopefully, you can find us soon and see some of these publications. Just to quickly review what we have here, we have works by an artist named Inga Levy, who has been doing a sort of illustrated journal of the war. Another piece by an academic named Volodymyr Kulik, who writes about the experience of communicating this situation to Western colleagues. We also are using this as a platform for exhibition information for this larger collective based in Warsaw. Nazar Furik is a young photographer who photographed the cities of Irpin, Bucha, Kiev, and Lviv during this period.
через которое
And then
сапатисты
some of you may
посылают
have
им
heard at the
важные
beginning,
сообщения.
before we started speaking, we played a few recorded dreams, and this is part of a larger project that we're working on, which is an archive of war dreams, things that people dream during this period. So you can actually find that. That's online now if you search for Sonia on SoundCloud. And you heard some of that at the beginning. I will speak briefly about the work that I was doing during this period, which was, I guess, an extension of the art practice that I was developing in Ukraine prior to the war, but a lot of this became very connected with activist initiatives. So this is a project that I have been collaborating with an artist in New York, a friend of mine named Alexandra Borovsky, who is originally from Moldova, but was displaced in the 90s. She felt really connected to the war, and you saw at the beginning these images of traveling around in this minivan and delivering aid. Most of that was financed by the sale of Alexandra's work in New York.
Истинно гладко сконструировано. Казалось бы, мы берем речь по необходимости, но на самом деле все престидижитировано. Ну, то есть, как фокусник марионеткой надевает на руку и шевелит, так же и здесь шевелят нами. Ничуть этого, надо сказать, не скрывая, потому что саморазоблачение давно стало, как мы знаем, одним из приемов искусства, тем более современного. У Бориса Гройса это хорошо. Ефимовича описано в том, что саморазоблачение для художника, для искусства сегодня чуть ли не главный продуктивный принцип. В том смысле, что кто красивее и лучше саморазоблачится, тот и будет как бы наверху, потому что людям не нужно вот этого вот сокрытия. Им важна вот эта исповедальность какая-то, которая в тебе уже содержится. Чем ты больше злодей, циник, да, и как бы ты это наружу выпячиваешь, тем ты и ценен этому миру. Так вот, я подумал, что бы об этом сказал субкоманданта Маркос. Странно вообще звучит субкоманданта Маркос. Почему суб? Впрочем, речь не об этом. Команданта Маркос, субкоманданта Маркос об этом бы сказал. Мы входили в политику, в борьбу, в сопротивление не через каналы новостей, не через активизм, а через литературу, эссе, кинофильмы художественные, в общем, через искусство. И, как мы знаем, именно вот эта сцепка коренных народов, науки и искусства и дала феномен Чапаса. Сука, комары кусаются.
which is a radio show on Radio Worm based in Rotterdam, where we listen to audio provided by artists or musicians, and we listen to the playback together and we discuss where they are, how their creative practice is, what's happening in Ukraine. So it's kind of a combination of music and found recordings or field recordings and found sounds, together with discussion of the situation in Ukraine. So this is our third section of or third and last section of our talk. I actually hope that we can have more of a conversation with you, the audience. Unfortunately, I think this audio will continue during that conversation, so I guess do your best to speak up. But yeah, I think as we were crafting this presentation, we wanted to talk about our work, but we also feel quite oppressed by this question, what work for the future looks like. So I'll let Milena and Katya, I guess, respond to what they are, if there's something we can look forward to in the future or what they're working on.
Yeah, basically, the work for the future is really uncertain, but everything we can do now is to do our work connected to Ukraine, because until the war ends, we are not able to do anything else. And I can say anything specific about my future plans because I was planning to return to Kyiv, and now it's not possible because I live near the factory that was targeted already 3 times in the last month. And I would just continue my work and we'll see what will happen next, because now I'm just displaced without having any possibility to stay anywhere for a longer period and do my work. So, that's all.
Еще мы хотели сказать, что нам нравятся сапатисты
Actually,
за то,
this
что у них
audio will not
абсолютное
play
равенство.
during the
Дети у
Q&A.
них, как говорит
So,
Ася, это не
Clemens didn't know about that.
Thank God.
для
Yeah,
взрослого.
it will stop.
Это вообще-то
But
самостоятельная
as
личность.
Milena said, that plans are really uncertain, and about living accommodation, about practice also. But still, I can share my dream about the future is that I can actually finally visit my hometown again by train as a
Да, мы
normal
считаем это
person.
правильным.
So that's all. Thank you.
Но
Thank
мы
you.
потом еще вернемся.
Мы вернемся.
Да. Спасибо.
Дякую.
I fully understand that we became the part of the piece of art, and I like it. It's very nice and legitimate way. And so I would suggest not to just start discussing the regular questions, but maybe discuss what we have participated in, if you agree, to hear maybe reaction, or maybe repeat questions that you already answered. But yes, I don't know, will it be still playing or not?
It seems no.
Okay, so now we will understand.
Thankfully.
But yes, I just want maybe to really like, maybe some people came with other expectations, but some people are from the visual art scene. And so does anyone want to react or to say something to what we have seen, or how you have perceived this intervention, let's say? If not, I hope that someone will maybe ask something, but I have some questions. Do you want to comment it somehow or not? Yeah? Môžeme ja nosiť.
because we were kind of discussing whether there should be some reaction from our side, because we were talking whether you are showing that there is something wrong and we are not acting. That was one of the feelings that we had, that we should somehow act, but nobody really acted or turned it off or something. So that was the thing that came as a question, whether this was somehow intentional, this obviously distracting thing. I'm not even sure, but I guess I think that it was the audio of the Что делать work from Transit. But I wonder if we had any option, if we could have turned it off or something.
Okay.
I think that there was an option, but as Katya and Milena stated in the beginning of the presentation, this maybe wasn't within the agency of the audience. This was more about the position of the institution.
I think that the title of the presentation, The Voices from Ukrainian Art, even become a new meaning and another message, in a sense of this voice-overing, that sometimes it's, even if you are shouting, it's impossible to hear you. So, you want to comment?
I just want to add that I had a strong urge, and there were a lot of, some people, like 5 or 6 people coming, asking whether I can turn it off, and I said, no, this is like what you wanted, so I felt this was a really weird situation and very interesting, because either one of that would feel like censorship, to turn it off or not turn it off, basically.
I just quickly want to say that for us it was also very uncomfortable to talk, as you might notice, and at some parts I was just forgetting what I'm even working with. But this is actually like, of course we are referring now to a certain situation, but I think that it is also like a big commentary on a discussion in general right now, because even in this platform that we are working now, that is called Sonia Digest, like when we met our colleagues from Polish team who invited this platform, like the bio of this project that we created was against war, empire, and West planning. And this is like, we experience a lot of misunderstanding of the current situation, and like some, for example, Western theorists are like falling with understanding of like commenting on the current situation. And this is actually like one more way of with this performance showing probably how like this discussion is actually structured for all this month for us, because we are facing really different situations, and Katya also had really different experience, and it was really insightful for me when she said like, when once like they in Vienna, you can say about this experience.
It's actually not much to say about, but sometimes I don't know in what reasons we are just learning how to lead such communication and how to explain actually for people who are not experiencing the same things like war. And sometimes while you are trying, you find yourself that people sometimes don't even listen or feel bored, or you are, you know, sometimes even being emotional explaining something. But being emotional doesn't mean that there is no logic behind this emotion and all that stuff. So with this our like performance or intervention, we wanted to bring up this problem of communicating.
Yeah, and also bring up this problem of that speaking is often not enough, and it is like there should be some other action like this that makes everybody uncomfortable, like even us and like institution, audience, artists, everybody involved.
The next question is in Ukrainian, so maybe can I ask you then first translate to English and then continue?
Дякую. Насправді це було доволі сильно для мене, тому що я, можливо, це сприймала інакше, ніж аудиторія, словацька аудиторія. І я живу тут уже 5 років, і я бачу зараз, як російські голоси лунають набагато сильніше, ніж наші. Тобто навіть в медіях ми бачимо, що запитують російських лібералів про те, як ми себе відчуваємо. Тобто запитують росіянів про те, як ми переживаємо цю війну. Питають їх і не питають нас. В словацькій аудиторії якось так стається. Навіть в словацьких медіа, які я дуже люблю, я дуже поважаю, і зараз я доволі так скептично до них відношуся, тому що от я бачу такі статті, де запитують не нас, тобто нас взагалі не слухають. І у мене були такі моменти, мені хотілося плакати, це для вас більше коментар насправді. Мені хотілося плакати і мені хотілося вийти і сказати, зупиніть це, бо я не чую вас. Я хочу чути вас, але я не чую справжніх вас. І в мене немає питань. Я просто дякую вам.
Дякую. А як вас звуть?
Maybe some of us maybe a little bit we understood, but if you can just summarize what was said.
I just wanted to ask what is her name?
Her name.
Thank you for this commentary. Anna said that she's also like it is more a commentary for us, and it was very powerful for her because now she's living here for already like many years in Slovakia, and she's experiencing that now regarding the war in Ukraine, still Russian voices are the priority and they are asked more, and like Russian liberals and like any other like Russian.
Not only in Slovakia, like everywhere.
So like they're still asked more about the situation than we are. So it was powerful experience to her that is very good for us to hear.
I think Anna said that she wanted to hear you and she was not able to hear you, and it's very like symbolic for many other situations. So yes.
And we understand that Ukrainian art scene is not that well known as Russian or as Western European art scene, but now we are like working on what we can do for that to be known better and to spread like our context and all that stuff.
Any other reaction? If not, I would maybe like to discuss how we should treat Russian art in the moment and Russian culture more in general. I was thinking when you started that there were many sanctions against Russia from the very beginning, mostly business, politicians, money, and then also sport. And it became very controversial if Russians should be eliminated, even maybe if they are against the war or they are anti-Putin, or even if they maybe live abroad. And I never thought about art as such and culture, if we should stop inviting them, if we should really like not consider their personal opinion maybe. So do you have some stance on that? Do you have some feeling like what would be enough from the Western society to do towards Russian art and culture?
Yeah, that's what we were trying to address in our introduction, because we think that the steps that should be addressed are like towards Ukrainian culture than Russian culture, because while doing all these talks and while having all this like discussion, we are still giving the space to Russian artists, and we think that the task now is to, as we said also again, to give agency to Ukrainian voices, and of course it will not happen very fast, but it is like only like after war Ukrainians were like started having this like bigger visibility, and I think like that's what we are trying to do, to like gain more space of voice, and we need to have this like discussion to how to give space for us. And actually, like if even we are criticizing the situation right now, we are really thankful for this opportunity that we can have like this intervention and this performance.
For me, especially with the sportsmen, what I realized in the first moment is that, okay, maybe it's unfair on individual level, but war is unfair, and that's the way of how to make oppression on the whole Russian society to change something, you know, like maybe you are, how to say, a victim of a really like discrimination for not competing or something, but okay, your country is invading someone. So yeah, it opens a very serious question. What about collaboration with Russian artists? Can you imagine working with some Russian artist who is on, let's say, anti-war project or something?
I think no, and we are really not interested in collaboration or statements from the side of the Russian artists, and the dialogue will be impossible, like not only during the war but long after, because everyone, like history shows us example when there is time needed to, even for Russian artists, dissident or not, to understand their shared responsibility and all that stuff. So we are not saying to Russians what they should do or not should do. It's just about us, that we are not interested in any kind of interactions with them.
Yeah, I just think that really Russian like imperialism and colonialism is acting in Ukraine for centuries already. And if Russian institutions who claim them to be critical institutions, they should like, instead of like working with Spanish imperialism or something, they should address imperialism that they were doing for all these centuries, and they had a lot of attempts already. So at this point, there are some other more important things for us to do than to collaborate with Russian artists.
I'd also like to add that in this process that Milena and Katya outlined at the beginning, we talked about the question of collaboration versus boycott, and how the boycott idea produces this false dichotomy between being totally like canceling Russia and collaborating. And this project has been about trying to find a more creative way of doing this. I think our consensus among ourselves is that we don't necessarily have something personal against Что делать. This is not about their work. This is about the space that they occupy. And this is also not to say that that space should necessarily be filled by a Ukrainian, but it's about recognizing the space that it takes up.
So I have to say from the beginning that I am hearing impaired 50%. I have 2 hearing aids and I was not really able to follow. the performance, but I understand the structure and the logic of the performance. And I think that as a format, you found a good format to react in this double situation of being grantee of an institution and finding an exhibition which you consider problematic. Yeah. So I understand this. It is all the time critical art should position itself, and it is about positioning, and that I can understand. And I agree that you did well, that you positioned yourself. And I think this is the space where you were given the possibility to freely speak, and you did it, and you used it well. On the other hand, I would like to specify a few things. So the exhibition in transit, which opened in the end of April, true, but in the end of February when the war started, it was in a very advanced stage, and we have already also spent money from the grant we had. So somehow we felt that we have to do it sooner or later, on the one hand. Secondly, it would have been unfair from our part to ban any of the artists in the exhibition. Secondly, Group Shodelaj is not, in our view at least as curators, is not a simple Russian artist group, but it is a group which is anti-Putin and it is anti-establishment, and all their practice is anti-regime. So I think we haven't committed anything professional mistake that we collaborate with them. And but I think it is also understandable. And as far as I can imagine, and although in our private talks on Zoom and in person, I understood that it's hardly imaginable that, let's say, after the war started, we keep anti-Putin group Shodelaj there, but then suddenly, if we have an idea, we just grab an Ukrainian artist and ask if would like to participate. Probably this artist would have not wanted to participate, I think. So you can imagine that although our situation wasn't easy in this way, but we opted to show what we were already preparing, and I think that it's not compromising to collaborate with an anti-regime group, which is even some members of the group are risking their personal or legal status by, being involved in this anti-regime things. And I think it is only, I don't say that it's okay. So I would just like to say that we should also be reminded that although people from Russia who are against the regime should be supported, because otherwise who will stop Putin? So this is also an aspect I would like to say. And last but not least, I just would like to specify about the word censorship. So I can understand that Milena interpreted it in this way, but it was in a private email exchange of us. So I personally don't know when private email can become censorship, because censorship, to my understanding, is something which is banned to go public. But I just proposed another version of the text which I was asked to forward to the other parties, and I didn't understand. And I wrote a version which I understood, and I asked what do they think and what is to be done. So it was an open thing. But I'm sorry. I wanted to help, but in the end, it would have been really better for me to give the emails of all the people and not try to fulfill this role of mediator I was asked for at the beginning. But in the end, I think the format was good here, and I think it's okay.
I would like to remind everybody, though, that this is our presentation was 30 minutes. This Q&A is however long this Q&A might be. And this exhibition has been running during the war from April and closes on Friday. Our initial proposition was to intervene in that exhibition for 3 days. From today, or I guess tomorrow.
For 1 day.
For 1 day. So we would expand, for example, this, let's say, maximum 90 minutes that we have with you here to 2 days. And I think it's important to keep scale in mind when we talk about these things, to keep the conceptual integrity of these projects in mind. And so I think our reaction to this is it may be adequate for this controlled space that we are allowed to have, this 90 minutes that we were allowed to do whatever we wanted to, and we can emphasize allowed. But I think maybe we want to consider more space at other times, or even now.
But anyway, I want to say that it's important for me to hear such words, because that's what we intended this for, because we wanted, as we said, we don't want to cancel or like что делать work, but we want to instead stimulate a productive discussion that I think is happening right now, and it's great.
I don't really want to open any other topics because I think that it would become very like negation of something what happened here. So if there are more comments and maybe even disputes, maybe we can polemize if this is proper or not. It's fine. Please, English, Ukrainian.
And I will be short. Thank you a lot for presentation, for performance. But it is still just said that it's more my comment to you, that no matter how much we will talk about Russian imperialism, still there will be something, but they are anti-Putin. Because totalitarian regime and Putin, it's completely different problems than imperial power Russian. And those group of artists, что делать, they should be anti-Russian. It's not necessarily for us important to be just anti-Putin.
If I can share my personal, I'm feeling very uncomfortable being invited as a moderator, and now I have to interpret the situation. But for me personally, it was very challenging. I think you open our eyes to one absolutely new dimension for me personally that I didn't realize that we talk a lot about solidarity with Ukraine and with Ukrainian artists. We are proud that we see Ukrainian flag on every concert, that we provide Ukrainian free tickets and many other things. But we don't talk about like how to treat Russian artists and country as such. And I understand what Judith was saying as kind of defense, but institutions has a strong responsibility and power, and sometimes we are not enough sensitive to many things, and individually we also decide differently. Some people are more radical on how to approach some things, some less. I think we can understand the decision of transit, but there are some people that would be more radical or acting differently. And we are also hostages of grants and 2-year planning and everything, and it's also kind of mirror or reflection of this. So for me it was really like very, I think we wouldn't learn that much from the discussion and from the presentation that we were able to learn now. So if there are some comments, please, we have time for that. And we also have time for wine, so we can continue later as well.
Stand here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for organizing the event. It was quite nice. I'd like to bring the discussion back to a more like broader topic rather than the smaller one. And so since you brought up the sanctions in most of the spheres of our lives, like economical, of course, sports, and many others, I think we should have similar in the art sphere. And I can imagine that it's kind of challenging, almost impossible on like governmental level. But I can see from my narrow point of view that it's happening on global levels, and I'm quite happy for it, though it's not well spread, let's say. And I can tell you why, because of course these artists, they create art, right? And we should appreciate it, but they are not just the producers of art. They also have the people who follow them. They follow the art that they are making. They follow their I don't know, media pages, because art is not just paintings or movies. It's also music, and it's also mass production of music and series. It's public people, and they influence the people. They influence their opinion, and if we, you know, don't intervene, let's say, it's not making any good. And well, we live in 2022, right? The cancel culture is prospering. Rowling was cancelled for a tweet. Why can't we cancel Russia for invading another country? Is that a radical decision? Invading another country is a radical decision, and it should be treated equally, I think. So, yeah, I think I'll finish here.
Comment in support of this type of maybe interventions? Some other comments, reactions, please? And I feel like we have several Ukrainians here, which I'm very glad.
My question is regarding Belarus, because within the framework on collaboration as Ukrainian artists or promoters of Ukrainian art, how do you feel moving forward the collaborations with Belarusian artists will be treated? Is it implicitly a victim of colonization or a perpetrator through the inaction or the lack of success while resisting Lukashenko's regime?
Tricky question.
I do think that the position of Belarus is more nuanced. I can say that last year I assisted as an editor in the English version of the catalog for the massive exhibition at Mistecki Arsenal in Kiev called Every Day, which was all Belarusian protest art. This was an incredible exhibition. It made full use of the Arsenal space, which, if anyone has been to Kiev, is massive. And they showed, I'm not sure how many, but it was a crazy number of artists who had all become active, and it included Ukrainians. It was an impressive exhibition in general. I think at this point, although Belarus is complicit on the state level in this invasion, the artists don't have the same culpability that Russian artists might have, especially because many of the artists who participated in that exhibition in Kiev were people who had been displaced previously that year. So there's a lot more to that situation that I'm sure could be a much longer discussion, but for my part, I feel like it is a different question. That if that had been a video by Belarusian anti-regime artists, I think the question, we wouldn't be here right now.
Okay, if there are no more questions, okay.
So it's probably a question about your editorial policy for the website. We have a lot of events dedicated to Ukrainian art and Ukrainian culture right now. Sometimes I participate in some of events which are dedicated fully the whole day. You will have 5 artists talking about their practices and experiences. And this definitely overwhelms the audience. So when I speak to Western people at the end of such days, they're usually like, you don't remember anything what was there, like it was too much stuff that we don't understand, and it's quite complicated for them to soak all the information. And at the same time, you see that the number of events dedicated to Ukrainian art is increasing all around Europe. You know, it's everywhere. A lot of every gallery basically tries to invite someone to present something even quickly made, not really quite high quality thing. So my question is how to keep this quality and how to keep attention of Western audience, not just to start doing projects, articles and stuff that no one will see and no one will read.
I can comment on that a little bit. Here we return to this problem of invisibility of Ukrainian art. And I have a very nice colleague, Daria Kuzmich, who is living and working in Germany and Austria for probably many years. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, she was organizing these educational events where she shows actually to a Western audience things about Ukrainian art, history, culture, like contemporary Ukrainian art and all that stuff. And you said the same example where people are just filled or they don't know what to ask, because I understand that they have nothing to ask because they hear about it for the first time. And she gave me very nice example, and she compared this situation to women in art. You know, like we still reopen women art now while we are living in 2022, and there are still a lot of unknown new things to us about that woman art which was shaded for centuries. So that will also happen to Ukrainian art, I think, because we actually have this long history of art, and you can see it on the exhibition in Venice called "This is Ukraine Defending Freedom," where is not only our middle-aged Ukrainian contemporary artists, but there are also icons and folk art and all that stuff presented in one space to show that actually it's a story that lasts long. So we Ukrainians have this responsibility to educate and to show, and to open it. And we understand why now that is not, doesn't have a lot of agitage or questions, because it was invisible.
I think, Misha, you're asking about the website that Milena and I are working on. Is this? Yeah. So I guess the question is how to curate it so it's not this kind of inaccessible overload of Ukrainian art. Do you have a commentary on that?
Yeah, I think that's what we were actually trying to do from the beginning, like establishing our editorial direction, and while saying that we want to give agency to Ukrainian voices, we also want to find allies and to people who are not only can comment on the current war, but also some shared experience. And in that direction, it is also very interesting for us to expand it in the future, so we could talk about the situations in the current war that are also other people are going through, this migration or some other topics that are people dealing with in other wars. So this is good as this place for solidarity, not only from our side demanding this solidarity, but also to create this a broader solidarity. Because for me, example, for the last several months that I'm staying outside of Ukraine, I was meeting different people from other countries, and it was always more important for me and more insightful for me to meet people with similar experience. For example, when I went to Ghent book fair, and I met writer from Nicaragua, and we were discussing wars. It was like really important for me to hear about him, but I was also feeling this like lack of knowledge, because I was like, I'm still in this like situation like of this lasting colonialism from also Europe, because like we have to know more about this established knowledge and established experience, and I want to relate to these people, because these are the people I want to create this alignment with, but I don't have enough knowledge, and I think this is also a purpose and task for our platform that we are working on now.
Yeah, I can add that I sort of see it as focusing on how to help frame these arguments in ways that idiots like me can understand. You know, this kind of person that may be ignorant of the context. For example, we use the term fascism a lot now to describe what's happening in Russia, and with the work of one of our contributors, I very directly posed the question to him, like, what kind of fascism are you talking about? Because this audience that we hope to reach may not be convinced already that Russia is currently in the grips of this fascist development. And so this is kind of how we're trying to do it. Of course, we'll see when we actually start to publish, and we'll see how effective this is, but this is definitely a concern of ours, and we hope that we can give people context in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay, I think we are coming to the end, so maybe I would have a final question. So you provided some kind of message and statement here, and maybe oppositely, like what you would recommend, or what should we do to support Ukraine and Ukrainian art? Like, what could be really like proper reaction? I think many of us think that we do something, or we try to emphasize having empathy, and also that we do small things, but what would be a proper reaction of Slovak society to war on Ukraine?
I think that this is a task for both sides right now, to find the ways and to explore how, like, what to do in this situation. But I think that, like, having a possibility to give such an intervention as we are doing now is like one of cases in this direction.
Yeah, I can say, as somebody who has been involved in a number of different aid initiatives and different things, that actually the enthusiasm for supporting Ukraine has been phenomenal. I mean, we can only hope that this continues. I think when I talk to my friends in the US, they tell me that the war is totally absent from the news already. So any support is good support. In the context of this presentation, I think that we can request that the organizers of the presentation take seriously this question that we're posing about the dominance of Russian voices in this space.
And actually, I want to agree with Clemens that providing us with visibility and giving us chances to hold such events, or be staying in news, it's already a nice support.
I know that I think Milena and Clemens, your residency is coming to the end. So maybe I wanted to ask, where are you heading now? Are you going back to Ukraine or not?
This is a question for us. Actually, we are staying till the end of July.
Okay.
And then we'll see, because we don't know yet. As I said, I was planning to return to Kyiv, but I live right near factory that was targeted 3 times already, so it's not a good decision to go there right now, I guess. But I don't know, like one of the tasks of for me during this residency is to figure this out.
Yeah, from here maybe we'll go somewhere, but I will be involved in a project called the School of Creative Solidarity, which will happen between Ivano-Frankivsk and Frankfurt Oder, but I believe that's only a couple weeks, and after that I could return to Kyiv, where I still have my apartment and my things, but I live in the same neighborhood as Milena, not as close to this site that has been bombed multiple times, but yeah, it's a question. I mean, we alluded to this in our last slide that the uncertainty is clear.
And Kateryna, you just came, I guess, for how long?
I was for the first 3 months in Ukraine, and June I spent in a small city of Germany on the residency. Till the end of July I will be here, and in August I will be in Poland, and then my Schengen ends, and then I return to Ukraine also.
Okay, so good luck with your future steps, and still enjoy the stay in Bratislavy and find here as some kind of shelter and maybe artistic inspiration as well. So this was Kateryna, Milena and Clemens, and thanks you for your intervention, and let's have now a small refreshment, and then Karaoke Tundra is ready to play in maybe 15 minutes. So thanks a lot to everyone.
Yes, thank you. And
thank you.